Hello and welcome, my name is Amir, and in this video we're going to write this beautiful morph color. So without any description, let's jump right into the code. So I go here, I have installed my React application and started the server here. So as usual, I would go and remove the parts that I don't want from here, and also from the app.js. I could remove these parts and the logo like so, and these files. Okay, now I have an app. Let's go to the index, remove everything from here, and I have a bunch of rules that I will define here, including a font from the Google, and just defining some styles for the HTML and body to place everything in the center. Right, now I go to the app.css. Here I will define a few variables that will be used. So these are the values for the red triangle, black and white, and the size. Okay, now we're ready to start. Let's go to the app here. Instead of just returning a div, the only thing that we return is a SVG. An SVG here. The SVGs always have a view box. Let's say this is like 400 by 400, and the width is also 400. You know what, let's define this size here and use it. So I would say size is 400, then later we can change it, and then we're going to use it like this here. And of course this should be still literal. I also need to include the XML and S as well. I should see a div and then an SVG here, which is 400 by 400. Cool. So let me define two more things here. One is the center point, which is like the size divided by 2, and the other one is the radius, which will be the size minus 30 and then divided by 2. So we have like an offset here. Okay, cool. In the SVG, the first thing that I would like to have is this circle that we have here. So I would go here and would define a circle component here, and this circle component is very simple. It will have a cx and cy, the coordinates of the center, a radius, and probably some class names. And the only thing it does, it just renders a circle element with the cx being the cx, cy being the cy, r being the r, and the class name being the class name. And then we're done with it. So let me export it. So our circle is done. Now we can use it here. So this should be C, then cy also should be C, and the R should be the R that we have. And for now, let's not give it anything. Need to define it, import it, sorry, here. like so, and now we have the circle. So let's go and define some style for this. I can go here and say that the circle, or probably the clock, these values. So the fill is black, the stroke is white, and we have the stroke width of 12 pixels based on the size that we have here. So here we can say that the class name is let's say clock, and yeah, I have the alright. The next part is just having these like spikes that we have here. So let's go back. I will define a component called spikes. This should render like 12 different of these spikes. Okay, so let's go and see how we can do that. First I will define, so this is going to be a group of 12, so I will have a group, and then here I can say that give me an array of like 12 different spikes. Let's give some room here and fill them with nothing, and then I can map them based on the index that they have. So the value is not important for me, but the index is important. And for each of them I can have a line which will be going from x1 some value and y1 some value, and then let's also give it some key for React. And so yeah, these need to have some values. Okay, so let's give them some arbitrary number, so from 10 and 10 to like I times 30, let's say, to I times 30, and the key is I. Let me export this. And in the app use it, so just like the circle, we would have these spikes, and it's auto imported, which is awesome. So if we go back, so if we go here, you can see that we have these lines, but they don't have any color or anything. So let's go and add that as well. Here in these spikes, I will define a class name of, let's say, spike, and here in the app.css I can say that each spike is this value, so it has a stroke which is white, and the width is like twice the size of that we defined here. So if I go back, I can see a bunch of lines, so this line, and so on, all the lines, but they are, going on top of each other. So I need to place them in the right position and give them the right size. So if I am here in number 1, that number 1 will be like, if I am counting from this axis, number 1 is like 30 degrees, 2 is 60, 3 is 90, and so forth and so on. So I can say that the degree is like the I value, the index value, times 30. So we need to convert that degree to a radian. So I can say I have a radian for x that I will define later, and say r minus, for example, 20 to I times 30. This is the value that we want. And for this one is radian y, and let's say going from these values to the same values, and I need to add like C to these values so that I am going from like the center, not from the top. I will fix these values. So the C and R are coming from the parent, and here let me send first the C and R to the spikes. So C is like C and R is R. But what is this function that we have? This function will get a radii that we define here and some angle that we talked about later, and it will provide the radian value for that specific number. If you want to know more about the radian and conversion from Cartesian to radian, there are lots of articles in the web. I have one here which is very nice, and it has like talked about everything that needs to be done going from Cartesian to polar. So I will not cover how the story goes, but I will just use them. You can go and read. This is a very good read. Okay, let's go back and write this function. Here I will have a file called the helper.js to include my helper function. And the first thing that I need to have is something that is called radian x and radian y. So radian x is, it takes a radius and an angle and times the radian value of this angle. So for now let me say that this is 2 radian, and I will define this 2 radian of that angle. And the radian of y is also the same thing, but the sine value. And the 2 radian okay, to get the radian, I mean going from the angle like 30 degrees to radian, we need to divide it by 180 and then multiply it by pi. So it will be math.pi to get the pi value, and then multiply it by I, and then divide it by like 180. But in the clock our 0 is here, so we are going from here. But in mathematics our 0 is like here, so we need to go like minus 90 degrees. So in other words, I need to say that this is a minus 90 degrees and then divided by 100. So if I say like, for example, if I want to calculate for 3, I would be sending 90 here based on this value. 3 times 30 is 90, and then here 90 minus 90 is like 0, and then the whole radian value will be 0, and then we would calculate the value of the 0 for the radian x and radian y. Alright, so if I go here and just remove this and say this, it will be added, and yeah, you can see that we have the circles in place. Okay, so we are done with these spikes. The next thing that we want is like these 3 different hands that we have here. Okay, the hands shall of course go to their own component. Let's keep the helper here and app.css and app.js. So here I would go and say I have a component called hands.js, like so. Okay, for the hands, first I need to get the time. and based on the time get the hour, minute and second. So I need the time, need to get the hour, minute and second, and after that need like to have the point for hour, minute and second, and then just draw the circles. Okay, so I would say hands this. I will get the time from the app because this will change, and I need to send it to the triangle as well. So I would suppose that the time is coming from there and changing every 1 second. I would also need to get the C and R from the app as well to calculate these values and draw the circles. So I suppose I am getting these values. So I suppose I have a function that will send me all those values that I want. Point for H and M and S. I would call them our X, our Y, and all coming from a function. We call it time points, and we are sending the basically the R is needed and the time that we are on it. So that based on the time that we have and the R that is being sent, we can calculate the points, these points. Let's go to the helper and define it here. Okay, based on this time, I need to get hour, minute and second. I will have another function here that will give me the time parts. So I would call it get time parts, and it will receive a time and sends back the hour to be the t.get hours, which is a function, and two more. So minute is the get minutes, and the second is get seconds, like so. Okay, I have this function in place. Let's write it like this. Now here I can use it. I can deconstruct hour, minute and second from that function, sending the time to it. Then the rest should be fairly easy because we have already used it in radian x. So our x shall be the radian x of let's say r minus 20, and like if we are here 1, the angle will be 30. If we are here, it would be 60. Here would be 90. So it will be 360 divided by 12, which is 30, and then multiplied by the hour. So I can say 360 divided by 12 and then multiplied by hour. This will give me the hour of the x position of the hour based on the radian. The y is the same, only the radian y and the same value. And I can have these for minute and second. and this is minute, and while minute is like 60, we need to divide this by 60. The same goes for second. Divide by 60 and multiplied by second. And then I can return these values. So return all of these. Separated by a comma. Like so. So I can log those values to see if they are working fine or not. And of course I need to return something, a G here, and export the hands. And use it here in the app. So I would say that hands, it requires two things, time and R. So hands, we need the time to be set and sent here, and then R, which is the R. The time is just new date. And if we go back, go here, go to the console, yep, we get the values like 142 and 84, 1 point something and 14, 67, which are the values that we will be using here. Alright, cool. So let's go to the hands, and instead of just saying return an empty G, we will return 3 different circles here. So the circle number 1 for the hands will be for the hours. I will call it hands. The CX is the value of C plus the hour of X. Okay, this is for CX. The same is for CY. And let's say the R is 15 for now, just an arbitrary number. I would have 2 more. So this one, instead of hour X, should be minute. And the last one shall be like second. And let's give them different sizes, so 11 and maybe 5. Okay, then I don't need this log anymore. I need to go here, and I can see that I have these circles, but they are not in the right place. Okay, I'm getting some errors. CX expected length. Yeah, I know. I think it's because the C is not passed along here. So let me go here and include C as well. And refresh. Now I have the hands here, but let's make them like white and put them more inside. So maybe here in the hands I can say that here in the time get points I can say that minus 30, and yeah, it's fine. Okay, let's give them some class here for the hands. So this, the fill is white, the stroke is black, and the width For the stroke is this value. Let's go back. Yeah, this looks fine. And as I refresh, the second is going on. So if I get to like 12, then this will move. Yeah, this is correct. So let's go and fix that so that every time I get a new time. For that, I will define the time inside a state. And let's say this is using the state. The initial value is like new date. And we can say that we want an effect which will be run every 1 second to reset the time. You can say that window.set interval and send the function to it. Which will set the time, and this will happen like every 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. And the dependency is like an empty array. And this should be the new date, of course. And if I refresh, I would get the new time. Okay, so this is done and working fine. And as we go along, this will change. Okay, so the last part is just having the triangle in place. And then we are done. We have everything but the triangle. And the text, of course. But the text is fairly simple, so the triangle should be a little bit more challenging. So let's go here, and here I would have a component called triangle.js. This triangle will also, just like the hands, needs time C and R to calculate the points and use them. So I will grab these from here and use them here. Here again we need to get these values to find the corners of the triangle, and of course I need to have these as well added here. Now the only thing that I need to do is just connect these lines to these points together. So the thing that I need to return is have a path. Let's define the path here. Let's give it some class name of triangle so that we can colorize it later. And here it will have a D, which will define the path that we are in. I will have a string literal starting with M, and I will define the points as I go along. So our X and our Y is our starting point, but of course I need to add C to these values as well. So it will be plus C and our Y plus C for the beginning point. The next point is minute, like so. The next point is second, so connecting from hour to minute and from minute to second, and then from second back to hour. So 4 different points, which the first and last point are the same. And this is basically it for the triangle. To just export it, and use it. So let's go here, and after the let's put it here so that the hands is on top of the triangle. So I will have a triangle, and I will send all these values to it and hope it works. Yeah, I have the triangle in place. The only thing is that I need to, give it some color. So let's go to the app.css here and say that the triangle will have just a fill for this. And yeah, I have the triangle, and as you can see, there is like a nice space between each circle and the triangle. Okay, the last part is just adding this digital clock here, and then we are done. Okay, so I will have another component here. I will call it digital.js. This digital will show the time, and it will need to, have the center point of the text. So I will say C and the time coming from the app, and the only thing it does, it will have the text element. The X is C and the Y is also C. Let's give it some class name as usual. Let's call it digital. And the value it shows is the time that we have. We would convert it to string and get the values from 0 to, I think, is it 8? 2, 4, 6, 8, yes. So 0 to 8. And I need to just export it. So let's go to the app and have the triangle here. Not the triangle, the digital part here. So let's give it, it doesn't need R, only time and C. And let's go here and then here, and we have this value. Let me go back. Let's go to the time. Yeah, this is to time string. So if I go back, I get the time here, but I need to have some CSS for this one as well. So let's go to the app.css, and for the digital, so these values, and let's go back. Yeah, now we have the clock working perfect. So yeah, that's about it for this tutorial. I hope you have enjoyed this clock, and you can customize it the way you like. Maybe adding some animation here and there. But yeah, the code is as always in my GitHub channel, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.